and welcome back to Choose Love Anyway. I'm Dahlia,
And I'm Dina.
and this is episode 6. I can't believe I'm saying that. It's been such a fun thing to do together and so special. And we always want to find a special way to come up with our episodes. And we found that it's always based on something that we're experiencing that week in our lives. And today we're recording the day after International Women's Day, which is March 8th. And we felt like it went so beautifully with the theme of Choose Love Anyway for us because we grew up celebrating this holiday. It's a big holiday in Russia. The beginning of this episode will be a little bit of history, just a few minutes. So you'll get a little history lesson today. And then we'll move over to where Dina and I will take turns asking each other questions and answering the questions. And then we'll close out with a little wish that we have for you, for all the beautiful women in our lives. We are so grateful for the examples that we have. And we wanted to find a way to honor the incredible women we have in our lives. And this feels like a really beautiful thing to do because that's one of the things that we did intend to do with Choose Love Anyway, is to make sure that we could shine a light on the beautiful relationships that we have. And then with so much division happening in the world, we also wanted to always take time to notice the unity because as much as there is division in the world and there's lots of really horrific things happening, we're also so believing of all the people that are also trying to create unity. And I really love looking back on history, and what sparked this thought was my grandmother yesterday. You usually talk to the women in your life, especially your mother and your grandmother and your aunts and your friends. And we were having a group family call, and our grandmother reminded us of a story of how a really sad and tragic thing happened in a factory here in the US, and it inspired the women in Russia to stand up and ask for more rights and essentially protest the injustice that was happening towards women in Russia. And so I thought that that was such a beautiful message, and it made me want to go and do some more research about it so that I could share it here because I think that it's so beautiful that we have been inspiring each other from all over the world throughout history. And that's been going on for so long, even when we didn't have the technology that we do now, where we can see so much more than we once did. And so we hope that this might be a space right now where you can take some time to embrace being a woman if you're a woman listening. And if you're a man listening, that you maybe can grow in more appreciation for the women in your life and that we can share a little of our family history with you and a little world history, and then some joy and love. And we're so thankful you're here today. Okay, so I'm going to share some of the things that I prepared. Growing up in a Russian family, March 8th was always one of the most special holidays in our home. It was a day when women were celebrated with flowers, gratitude, and love. As we've grown older, we've learned that the history behind International Women's Day is actually rooted in women standing up for their rights, their dignity, and their voices. Today, we wanted to reflect not only on the history of this day, but on the women who have shaped us, challenged us, and taught us what it means to choose love anyway. So, the origin of International Women's Day starts when women's labor protests started in the US. One of the earliest inspirations was a women workers' protest in 1908 in New York City, when about 15,000 garment workers marched demanding for shorter working hours, better pay, and voting rights. And this momentum led to the Socialist Party of America to declare the first National Women's Day in the United States in 1909. And then a tragedy happened the year after, which kind of deepened this movement, which was in 1911, a devastating event happened. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire in New York City that my grandmother was referring to. Fire broke out in a garment factory. It's said that about 146 workers died, most of them young immigrant women, because many of the exits were locked to prevent workers from leaving early. So, in order to keep them from leaving work early, they would lock the exits. But that's not safe because you need to be able to exit the building if something were to happen like this. So, this tragedy became a powerful symbol of why labor protections and women's rights were necessary. It deeply fueled the women's rights movement worldwide. So, it became the International Women's Movement in 1910. A German activist named Clara Zetkin proposed the idea of International Day dedicated to women at the International Socialist Women's Conference in Copenhagen. Her idea was that women across the world should unite on the same day each year to advocate for suffrage, labor rights, and equality. And the proposal was unanimously accepted, and the first International Women's Day was celebrated in 1911 across several European countries. It became so important in Russia, and Russia actually played a huge role in making March 8th the official date, which was on March 8th, 1917. They had a Gregorian calendar, so that's why you'll see that they called it the February Revolution, but that's because of the calendar that they had. So the women textile workers in Petrograd, now it's called St. Petersburg, went on strike demanding bread, peace, and the end of war. This protest sparked what became the February Revolution, which ultimately led to the fall of the Russian monarchy. And because women's protest ignited the revolution, March 8th became a major national celebration honoring women. Later, during the Soviet era, it evolved into a beloved cultural holiday, which Dina and I experienced, celebrating women, mothers, and femininity with flowers, gifts, and appreciation. That's why in Russian culture, it feels almost like a mix of Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, and Women's Empowerment Day, which we didn't really celebrate Valentine's Day, but we did celebrate March 8th. And so that's why it kind of feels like this love fest for women. I personally love this holiday because when we were young girls, March 8th always meant flowers, especially tulips. In Russia, they're one of the first flowers that appear after winter, so they became a symbol of spring and new life. It was such a sweet tradition because the flowers weren't just for romantic partners. We would give them to mothers, grandmothers, teachers, and friends. It was really a day of honoring all the women around us. To me, as I've like been putting this together, it's kind of poetic when you think about the origins of this day, the day that many families and people around the world now celebrate with flowers, appreciation, and love for women actually began with women rising their voices for survival, dignity, and peace. There's something really powerful about the transformation from protest to celebration. And, I love to write my own poetry. I do not really share it, but history often feels so, I don't know, there's so much symbolism in it, and it's so poetic sometimes in that at one point, this was something happening in the world where women were having to push for something, and women have been doing that so much through history. Like, we don't even know a world in which we didn't have that. And I now joke that our mom was unintentionally raising little feminists because Dina and I feel so empowered in the world. I'm so grateful for all the women that came before us. And I'm so grateful to know this history. And my grandmother has been so inspiring to us of this too, and has always believed in us and wanted us to follow our dreams and to keep dreaming. She still says it. She's like, don't stop dreaming, even if it's so heavy right now in the world and it's so sad. Never stop dreaming because nobody can take that from you. Anyway, so that's my little history lesson. So thank you for listening. And then I just wanted to ask you if you had anything you wanted to add to that.
Well, first, I want to say thank you so much for opening up the episode so beautifully and honoring all of the beautiful and amazing and incredible, empowering women in our lives. I feel like we are so lucky, like you said, to have been raised by such strong women and in their own way just by living their life, they were such examples of resilience, of strength, of willpower, of determination, discipline, beauty, intelligence. We are both very grateful. But I also thought of how you named your little girls after grandma. You know,
Mhm.
our grandma's
Yeah.
was Ludmila, and she named her kids Lucy and Mila, which I think is so cute. I think in your own way, that's you honoring grandma. So,
Mhm. It totally is. That's so sweet. Thanks for saying that. That makes me a little emotional. Yeah. I'm feeling a little tender today. So I just feel like I
um,
have to say that because I'm feeling really sentimental.
why do you think that makes you emotional?
I think it's just because I'm so grateful for grandma and the sacrifices that she made. And also because I wouldn't have the life that I do now that I'm so grateful for, and my daughters who I'm so grateful for, and you and our relationship. And I guess I feel so empowered to be a woman, but I also don't take it lightly how it's been challenging to be a woman in society and in the past. And I'm so grateful to be alive right now, to be able to experience all the freedoms that we have. But I also am always tenderly holding something in my heart for the people that maybe still don't get to live this way. So it's just two things being true at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it makes me just think of grandma, how the older I get, the more I notice the good things in us that come from her.
And she's coming to visit soon. My mom and my grandma are coming in a couple of days. So I'm really excited and I'm probably feeling a little emotional because of that. And also my mother-in-law just left and it was a really wonderful trip and I'm so grateful for her and that she raised my husband and she's an amazing mom and Derek is an incredible husband and so I feel emotional from that too.
Oh, I
So
know.
yeah, I get emotional about the sacrifices that I know it takes now that I've been a mother. I know how hard it is. And I've been only doing it for 4 years. I just have the utmost respect and I'm so grateful. So I just feel a lot of gratitude. And so this feels really sweet, but I'm sorry if I'm, kind of,
No, I think that's beautiful and so sweet, and I'm sure all the moms out there would appreciate it so much, you know?
yeah. Thanks. I wanted to start by asking you a question. We've been kind of talking about it, but what does International Women's Day mean to you personally?
Okay, so I think what this day means to me is a day where no matter what we believe in, no matter where we live, what our differences are, we have one thing in common as women, and that's that we are women and that we all understand how much resilience and strength and necessity women have. And we bring life into this world when only women have that ability, which is such an honor. And it's just a day where we all get to celebrate that. And we do deserve to get celebrated. Like that is how we continue on. The way women are such a necessity deserves to be celebrated. Like they make things possible, they make the impossible possible. It's like they're vessels that just make magic happen here on earth.
That's beautiful. I love what you're saying.
What about you?
I think for me, what International Women's Day means is one, it reminds me of my family and my Russian heritage because that's something that we celebrated as kids. And I think I love the inclusivity of the holiday because, with Mother's Day, sometimes the people who aren't mothers feel a bit left out of that category because some people maybe don't want to be mothers or don't get the chance to be a mother. I sometimes feel that there's some sadness there, but with Women's Day, I feel like it's so inclusive of the whole female experience. You are just showing love to everybody. And any woman you see on the street, you're just saying, in Russia, you say March 8th, not always, Happy International Women's Day.
Mhm.
And so I think it just makes me happy and it means joy and unity and love. And I am always eager and excited for an opportunity to talk to strangers. Yeah, I don't think it's as celebrated in the United States, so I didn't go out that much and speak to people, but I envision a day where, like, mom would always have her friends over. They probably did this yesterday, got together with friends and celebrated March 8th because it's part of their Russian heritage, that's how they honor it. So I would like to one day do that with my daughters or just even with friends and maybe
Or with our
celebrate
family, like the
or
girls.
with our family even, yeah. And I love gathering with my female friends. It just feels like this special thing where all women are celebrating that. And yeah, so it means that to me. I hope that wasn't too long an answer.
No, I love that, and actually, when you said it's like a combination of Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and yeah, Women Empowerment Day, I also was thinking how on Valentine's Day, some people don't feel included because
Yeah.
they don't have somebody, but I think Galentine's reminds me a lot of Women's Day. Like, you're so right, because I always think of school in Belarus when we would
Yeah.
always get bouquets, and it was like a graduation was happening.
Yeah.
We would get bouquets and chocolates and all of these things, and it was just this very, very empowering, like, "You are so special," sort of energy day, and we should
Yeah.
give ourselves that all the time, but, like, it is nice to have a day dedicated just for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That's sweet.
Now I've got the next question. Who are some of the women who have shaped who you are today?
Oh man. I'm just gonna be emotional this whole
Oh,
episode.
that's so sweet. That's so
Um Well, obviously, my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmothers, even though I didn't really get to know them. I know that my grandfather's mother did a lot for our family, even for her country, and I remember hearing stories about her all growing up and standing up and having integrity, and even when it wasn't easy, even when she had to sacrifice her life to stand up for what was right, and so I think that I'm so grateful for the women that there was never something that they weren't willing to sacrifice for the sake of their family, justice, equality too. help others. I am so grateful for those examples in my life. And then, of course, naturally, like my mother-in-law just left. She has shaped who I am last 10 years, 11 years of my life. I've gotten to watch the way she cares for her family and the way that she loves her children, her grandchildren, and the way she's handled difficult times in her life for that. And then there's friends, so many of my wonderful friends. I mean, I wish I could name them all, but these are the women. And then now they continue to shape me. The women in my like church communities, my neighbors, the women I interact with on the street, you, my sisters, all of my sisters. We have,
Waiting for that.
yeah, you were waiting for that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel like you are the obvious one, right? Because you're here with me,
The
but
vent
I'm sorry
laugh.
about
Okay, so your answer ends there.
yes. I'm so grateful for all of these women in my life.
That's beautiful. I would agree. I think you're definitely at the top of my list, girl. You have shaped my life so much just by being exactly who you are and your example.
Mm.
Definitely mom and grandma. And I would say for better and for worse. But I think even the for worse has also shaped me to be better, and
Mm.
talking about history, it's like in honor of them, I get to live in a way that they couldn't, and holding grace for that, um,
Mhm.
has shaped me, and my friends, absolutely. I mean, just as I get older, I think I have more and more international friends. We're all like a melting pot, and we bond over it, and I think we have all hit a rock bottom that allows us to meet at a great depth that you just don't
Mm.
come by a lot, and some of those rock bottoms have to do with being immigrants or being different, and just the resilience I have seen in the women in my life who have just never given up. Like, they just keep going, and they had every right to harden, to close their hearts off, to give up, make other
Yeah.
choices, and all they do is the opposite. I mean, they are just going and holding on to that, knowing that everything is working out the way
Mm.
it's supposed to, and that there is light on the other side. They just keep going, and they're all right. Like, they have all been correct, and it makes it so motivating and inspiring to do the same.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, I have the next question, and it's how has your circle of women changed as you've grown?
I guess I kinda just answered that. Like, as I
Mhm.
grow up, they just become much more diverse, yet I have the same feeling of safety, belonging, love. My circle feels very, very much like if I put them all in a room, we would have the best time, actually, next week, and, um,
Oh,
I told my
I
friend.
wish I could be there.
I know, me too, and, like, see, I want you to meet all of my friends too, so I know. Because I'm like, if they're all in a room with me, I would just feel so happy and excited, and that would feel so good to my soul. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think just my circle is much less about fitting in and much more about what feels safe and inspiring and helps me evolve and expand and reach my highest self, holds me to that standard.
I love that.
Okay, now you tell me, how has your circle evolved?
I really like this question because I guess I have a lot of friendships still in my life that have been with me for, over decade. And I'm so grateful for that. But in that decade, we've all changed and grown. And I'm so grateful that I have friendships where we give each other space to grow and that we hold space for that. Whereas in high school and even when I was younger, I think that a lot of times when I was looking for friends, I was looking to be the same as someone and wanting to fit in and not actually show myself. And as I've gotten older, the friendships that I have around me give space for differences and that we don't have to be the same. And that actually what I look for and what I love is to meet people who are different than me and who have lived different lives. And I love being inspired by the friends that I have and to also share in our hard times and that the vulnerability is there. Cause I think a lot of times in high school, I would maybe want to pretend that things weren't that way. But even then, I'm so grateful for all the friends that I had then and that maybe I'm not as close with anymore, but they also left an impact on me too. And I am grateful that I got to learn about myself and my own limitations then because I wasn't always a great friend. And so I'm grateful that I have learned how to be a better friend over time. And the person that I am right now is informed by the person that I was then, who maybe wasn't a great friend at times and who maybe did act out of jealousy or insecurity at times. And I'm sorry for those moments, but I'm also grateful for who I am now and how that has made the person that I am today and the friend that I am today. I guess it's just honesty. Maybe that's what's changed is just that now I feel like I'm never making a friend just to be liked by them, even though sometimes that feeling comes up of like, I just want you to like me, but that's not a good enough reason to have a friend, right? Because if that's the only thing, there's just not you being authentic there. So, anyway, I hope that answers the question.
I love that. No, that's exactly how I feel. Like, it just feels a lot less about being accepted and understood and just a lot more trust and surrender. You have this understanding and you have
Mhm,
safety, you have respect, and you both just feel really safe and you trust each other and trust
mhm.
individual choices. And
Yeah.
like you said, it's all about being friends from a place of want, not need. Neither one needs each other, and it's a very independent, very free friendship, I feel like, with all of my friends, and I think that makes it so much more fulfilling. I feel like all of my friendships now, there's not one that drains me, it's like they all just energize me every time I hang out with them, talk to
Yeah.
and it makes it so much better to assess that with everybody I meet, you know? Like, if I don't
Yeah.
have that same energy, I put it in my B or C circle.
So maybe that takes us to the next question where it says, what does it mean to you to choose love anyway in your friendships with women?
Mm. Okay, this is kinda funny. My friend
Mhm.
Jess, she told me that her brother always says, "Women hate women," just like
Mhm.
so what we're talking about right now. I think women really do because we're so powerful.
Yeah.
Sometimes we also use that against each other, and it often revolves around boys. I feel like
Mhm.
that's a time where women really do hurt other women. I know I've been guilty of this, and I am also like that version of me has taught me to be so much better now.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, like, I'm so sorry for that version of myself and how I behaved and hurt other women. And then I'm also really grateful to now be where I'm at and know what I know now. And
Yeah.
think loving other women, it's still something I'm absolutely learning and working on every day, not judging them and thinking, how would I want to be judged in this situation? I believe we never know the full story. I
Mhm.
believe out of loyalty, we tend to put other women down. And so I think for me, I try really hard to say, maybe she has her reasoning. I can love her better from a distance. Like I can love her more authentically from a distance, and I think it's
Mhm.
just knowing that there's a time and a place. Sometimes you just see people in group settings or at workouts or out and about, or you pass them
Mhm.
by, but you don't really make the time or effort to spend one-on-one time with them. And I think I just do that because I know enough that if I have that feeling of, again, feeling drained, one, I just don't have time to spend time with people that don't feel aligned. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I think I know enough that it doesn't make anybody good or bad. And it's like the
Yeah.
same way I feel about other women like this, other women who feel this way about me, that like, she's just not my cup of tea. Everybody else might love her. She's just not for me. You know, it sounds mean, but it's really from a kind place that I never want to be fake with somebody. And I always want to be
Mhm.
authentically excited or there and supportive. That I just feel like sometimes if I'm forcing it, that's a less loving thing to do than be authentically loving from afar. So I think learning that, I just feel less resentment, and I've had a lot less friendship breakups or a lot less messy
Yeah.
situations by doing that versus just there's a version of me that would just completely take somebody out of my life. And sometimes that is necessary, I think, but also again in a kind, loving way and really assessing why you feel that way and the necessity of that.
Mm.
Sorry, that
Yeah.
was a long answer, but
No, that makes sense though. I see what you're saying because I think you're kind of touching on some of these things of honesty, forgiveness, repairing, or, letting friendships go if that's what needs to be. So I feel like you touched on a lot of those things.
What does it mean to choose love anyway in your friendships?
Okay. I've been thinking about this. I've been trying not to think about it too much and listen to you as you shared your answer. But as I think about it, to choose love anyway now in this moment for me in my friendships is choosing to be honest about where I'm at, not just, being agreeable or, like I said earlier, wanting to be liked by someone and or not wanting to hurt someone's feelings. I am so grateful for the friendships in my life, but I recently had my first time that I've ever had to kind of let a friendship go in my life. And it was really hard and sad. And I had a hard time with it because I really loved this person too. And I had so many wonderful memories with this person, but I also self abandoned a lot in the relationship. And so I had to take accountability for that part and that I am not great at holding boundaries sometimes. And so I think that to choose love anyway in that moment was to choose love for myself and the person by being honest that I hadn't been truly myself, like maybe the last year of the friendship. And so I think that now just being honest about who I am. And as I'm navigating that, though, it's a new thing. I'm learning. I was trying to explain it to a friend the other day. It's like when you're first learning to use a car and you're trying to figure out the gas and the brake and you're trying to be kind of soft with it, but it can be kind of jerky. And I think now I'm kind of in this phase where I'm still navigating honesty because I can be a little bit more assertive and maybe push back a little bit thinking like, am I self-abandoning right now? Am I just agreeing with what they're saying? And I'm so grateful for the friends in my life who are giving me space to do that. Like as I'm doing it, if I step on a toe, they're so loving and gracious with me because again, I realize this is something I was doing, and now that I know it, I'm learning how to navigate being more honest, but it's not perfect. It's kind of messy. So I am navigating that right now.
I think you're doing way better than you realize. I
Yeah.
think you've done a wonderful job. You've handled it really well.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. Yeah. I think it's just wanting to be honest in relationships. And I think it's also choosing love anyway is letting a person change. I have friendships in my life where we have all changed so many times. And a person that I was, 2 years ago, year ago, is not who I am now. And that's the point, right? I read this Substack recently that was so beautiful, but I think you can also, put it into friendships too. It was about marriages. And this man was interviewing his grandfather about his 60-year marriage. And he said, how have you made this relationship beautiful and work for so long? I'm paraphrasing here, but he essentially said that he gave her space to grow and he continued to fall in love with the new versions of her. And I thought that was so profound and beautiful. My husband and I were talking about it too. Even in my marriage, we have changed the last, right, 11 years of being together, but I have continued to love and fall in love with new versions of him. And I have also fallen in love with new versions of my friends. And as we've evolved and changed, and also we've had moments of repair. Like there's been moments where we've maybe not been as close. And I recently had a friend that I feel like we became closer again after she went through a really hard time in her life. And I feel like I wish I had been more direct with her and asked her more direct questions about how she was doing and not assumed things. And so I think to choose love anyway for me now is not to assume things, but to actually ask and then also to be honest about myself. And that I think is so loving to do. And I'm learning that it brings so much connection and I'm so grateful for that.
That's so true. Everything you're saying is so perfectly, like, saying everything that I've been thinking, and when you were saying that you were falling in love with different versions of your husband, of your friends, I also think the right people help you evolve, but they also help you fall in love with the new versions of yourself,
Yeah.
and I feel like I have said this a lot recently. I think the biggest thing now is everybody that I feel surrounded by, I'm so in awe of them, and not in this obsessive way or like they're better than me way. I am truly so inspired by their example that I want to be better. And then if you are who you surround yourself with, on the days I feel really bad and doubt myself, I look
Mhm.
at them or if I wonder, am I worthy of this? Am I actually capable? I look at them and I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like what I think of them and their abilities, if everyone's a mirror to you, then what I see in them is a reflection of also what I see in myself, and I'm allowing myself to believe that. I honestly never thought that I could get this sort of fulfillment of connection and depth from female friendships. Like, I always thought it was only gonna be from, like, a romantic partner. So I
Mhm.
obviously feel really grateful. It's not just from my friendships also. This is, like, the women in my life that I really do look up to, whether they're influencers, you, Edie. I just think I am very, very honored to have the women that I have surrounding me.
That's beautiful. I love that.
What does it look like to love someone while still honoring your own path?
I think we've kind of answered this question, but if I was to add anything else to that, it would be having boundaries with yourself. I have had a tendency in the past to self-abandon. I'm grateful with most of my friends I haven't had to do that, but I realized that I haven't always been comfortable completely with my own individuality. I wanted to be able to be myself, but I didn't want to be too different than someone else because it made me feel a little bit like I might be rejected or that I wouldn't fit in. And I think that comes from, you know, we've talked about it before, but just this idea of assimilating in the US when we were 9, I think kind of I kept that pattern a bit because I got so good at it that I think that I thought that that's what you're supposed to do, and it didn't feel like work. I have also gotten to practice this with my own husband. He's been my partner, and I feel like we have so many really healthy boundaries, and I've gotten to learn how it is to have a secure attachment with someone. And so then the other day, there's this one person in my life that I don't know, maybe they don't like me. And Derek said something silly, but he was just like, "Well, I like you." And I was like, "Yeah, you do." I think Michelle Obama says this about her upbringing, and that when she was growing up, her mom would always say, "Your home is where you're liked. We will always like you here. This is where you come to be liked, is at home." And then you go to school to learn. Even if nobody likes you there, that's not the point of it. You come home and we will always love you and accept you here. And I think that maybe I thought that that wasn't the case growing up. And I think as I've gotten to have that in my marriage, now I think the anxiety can kind of come down. Of I'm not making friends just to be liked or to be accepted because I'm scared to be rejected. I think now actually want to be seen and I want to witness someone and I want to connect in our inherent uniqueness and individuality. And that is such a beautiful, magical experience. And it feeds my soul truly. So I think it's just honoring yourself and your own integrity and the person in front of you.
Oh, that's so good. I hope I remember all the points that you
Mhm.
just so beautifully brought up that I want to bring up again,
Hmm.
that make me think of things. When
Yeah.
you said you come home and home you are liked, at home you are loved, I think also home is yourself. Like, you're talking about
Yeah.
home with Eric, and I'm thinking, well, when I come home, I'm by myself, but I still know what you mean because I think the reason that we're not in a place where we're trying to find acceptance and love and belonging outside of ourselves anymore, it's not in a mean way, like we don't care about that. We
Hmm.
just know that that comes from a place of ego and also human survival. We all wanna belong, we all wanna feel
Of
safe,
course.
all
Of
wanna
course. It's like
connect.
somewhere deep inside of us.
Yes, and actually, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they said that the things that raises your dopamine in a healthy way is human connection,
Hmm.
and so I think that it feels a lot less selfish when looking for friendships because you're not there to take validation from them or love from them or belong
Mhm.
from them. You already have that within, so you come
Yeah.
completely from your own free will, and they come from their own free will. That's why I also wanted to say that I think what I have with my friendships now that is probably the biggest thing all across the board is I really respect my friends. And going back to this question of how do you honor your paths, I respect them so much and trust their judgment so much that even if I don't agree with their decision, I will still be there for them and support them in whatever way I can. And like you said, as long as it doesn't make me self abandon, I think I don't self abandon with these friends because I can tell them, like, hey, I don't agree with you, but I'm going to support you no matter what. And whatever happens, like, I'm here for you. And obviously, you can't do
Mhm.
this every situation,
Of course.
but so far in all of my friendships, I feel like we have all been able to do that. Even if we don't agree, it's like you were still able to hold space and support each other, even if we're on different paths, because we respect each other.
I love that. Okay, so as we close out this episode, I had a closing question for us, and then a little wish or blessing that we'll share to close this episode. I wanted to ask you, what is one thing you hope that women listening to this episode remember about themselves after today?
My greatest wish for all women to remember about themselves is that we are so intuitive and so much more powerful than we realize. I encourage every woman to listen to her intuition and never ever doubt that her desires are too big and that her dreams are too big or that she's crazy or to gaslight herself, even if it makes no logical sense. My wish is that every woman can listen to her intuition and honor it fully and beautifully and honestly and with grace and compassion.
That is so gorgeous. I feel like I shouldn't say anything else. One thing that I hope for women listening to this episode to remember about themselves is that they're worthy of being loved the way that they desire and wish, and that it's worth it to really show who you are and to genuinely connect with people. Even if you have one friend in your life, I think it's worth it if with that one friend you are exactly yourself. Because that is the most beautiful, deepest connection to have. And so yeah, that's my wish, is
Oh,
that you allow yourself to be seen.
that is so good. Oh my god.
Okay. And also, I just want to say one other thing about you, Dina. We've been talking about these friendships with what I was saying about how you evolve and change, and you've given yourself space to do that. And I'm so grateful that we've given each other space to evolve and grow and make mistakes and, fall down and get back up and help each other through that. And I feel like life doesn't feel so heavy because I have you. And I'm so grateful for that. I feel like I can get through anything. And I'm so grateful that Lucy and Mila have each other because they see how I have you. And I know that even if I'm not, there for them, one day I hope that doesn't happen. But there's something so beautiful about sisterhood and womanhood. I'm so grateful that you've let me change and evolve and that we haven't always agreed and we don't always agree. And that's not the important part. It's that we allow each other to flourish and become our own special, unique flowers that don't feel like we are shading each other or that we have to be the same. We're all part of a gorgeous bouquet, and I'm so grateful for that.
That was so sweet. I love you so, so much. And I obviously have dreamed of this day for my whole life. And I just want you to know, obviously, whenever I say friend, you are completely in that category. You are my number one best friend. I call you for everything and anything. Again, like you said, I'm so grateful because I think there was a version where you were really biased and I wasn't interested in your opinion because you couldn't hold space and you would project like your beliefs onto me and what you would want for me. And there was still some fear in that, which rightfully so, like we all do that. But now I feel like you tell me from a place of love and you just try to get me to make the decision that's the least reactive one and the one that's from a place of love and not fear. So you really
Yeah.
help me nurture more love and more responding versus reactivity. So thank you for that.
That's so
And I'm so
sweet.
glad you have Mila and Lucy too, because, if I don't have my own kids, they better take care of me. That's so toxic.
They will. They love their nana. Okay, in that spirit, we want to leave you with like a little wish or blessing. And this is kind of more spoken in a little more of our Russian influence. In Russia on March 8th, you wish these beautiful things for each other. So I wanted to share a little bit of that tradition here. And so on this day, every year, we celebrate the strength, beauty, and quiet courage that lives within women everywhere. We remember the mothers, grandmothers, sisters, and friends whose love has shaped us and carried us forward. May we continue to walk beside one another with open hearts, honoring each woman's path, each woman's voice, and each woman's becoming. And to every woman listening, may you know that your presence in this world is a gift. May you trust your heart, stand in your truth, and continue choosing love again and again. We love you, and we're so thankful you were here to listen to this episode. And we hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. And we'll see you next week.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.